On this episode of AV Week, it is episode 300. Holy cow. We talk about how to attract and retain top talent. Also talk about whether or not it is the end of the control programmer in the audio video space. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 300, recorded Friday, May 26, 2017. Wilco and Out. Support for AVNation is brought to you by BIAM and by FSR. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to talk about the stories that we've got to talk about this week. First and foremost, his name is Brock McGinnis. He works for a company called Westbury National. How are you, sir?
I am terrific, Tim. Glad to be here as usual.
All right. Thank you, sir. Also with us is Margot Duahi from AV Technology Magazine. How are you?
Hey, everyone. I'm wonderful today. Enjoying this. Going to be a lovely, long Memorial Day weekend.
Yes. We're recording this on May 26th on that Friday, so we'll have fun here. Also with us is Clint Hoffman from Kramer. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And last but not least, Mr. Sean Robinson from AMX by Harman by Samsung.
Samsung. That's right. Hello, everyone.
All kidding aside, you could, because Harman is a wholly owned subsidiary. Is it Harman?
It will be Harman, a Samsung company.
Okay, and that's the official way we have to say that.
That's the official way we say that. Yeah.
Or people call me and sue me and stuff like that. So, all right, here we go. So let's get on. Good buddy of mine. His name is Steve Greenblatt from Control Concepts. He's also the host of our control programming show called A State of Control here on AVNation. He writes in System Contractor News, quote unquote, there are clear signs that the future of control solutions will be divided at opposite ends of the spectrum. The no programming required or configurable approach and the highly advanced and powerful software development. If that direction plays out, where does it leave typical AV programmers? Now, if you've never watched this program before, I am a programmer. That was what I ended up doing the last time I had an actual 9-to-5 AV job. Funny thing, we have two companies that make programming solutions. So we're going to start with Mr. Robinson here. Steve asks a very good question. Mm-hmm. Where does these systems, as great and wonderful as they are for tech managers and IT managers, where does that leave the typical AV programmer in the AV world?
Yeah, so Steve did an excellent job in the blog post, of course, as you would expect with his expertise in this particular field, right? But and as you see from all control manufacturers, it is now that we're delivering complete AV solutions, we have to deliver them in a very simplistic way. Now that we're starting to, there's been a plethora of different types of meeting room types for many years, but now it's starting to kind of converge. And from an IT perspective, customers are just wanting a solution delivered. And a lot of them, the more enterprise customers we engage with, over and over, they're saying they want a standardized solution globally because they want the same user experience. And because of that, we've seen our cloud-based configuration software just skyrocket in use because it delivers a standardized application that provides a standardized user experience. But with that being said, there's always those executive boardrooms, the visible rooms where they want some customization to that. And that's just like Steve pointed out in the article, there's always those applications where they'll go in and want to customize something. And so a lot of the things that we're doing is delivering a way to, for IT to have a standardized way to deploy very simply without programming. And if they just want the out-of-the-box solution, that's what they get. But providing tools that they can extend the solution, and that's where AV programming comes into play. I will say that, as we go forward, and again with AV and IT can, already have converged, that it'll be more.
Thank you for saying it that way, by the way.
Right, and it'll be more standardized programming languages, right? And NetLinks will continue to exist for many years, but more common scripting language and common programming languages will be used to extend those, so it can be done not only by AV but also with IT community.
And just so we're clear, when you say standard programming, we're talking about C, C Sharp, Java, Python,
JavaScript,
Ruby on Rails, stuff
Python,
like that.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Clint Kramer is getting into control. So same kind of question to you. Where does this going to leave folks like Steve's company, Control Concepts, and not just the independent programmers, but also the programmers that integrators have spent several years teaching and instructing and bringing them up through the ranks to program these systems?
Well, there's actually like a whole bunch of different levels at play here, if I may. And let me preface this by saying that, I'm a marketing kind of guy that is just getting into control. So if I say anything that doesn't sound too intelligent, everybody will forgive me. We were just smart enough to buy a company with a bunch of really smart guys to develop a control solution. But let me get back to the other point. Another topic we're going to discuss today is related to the workplace and millennials. Okay, millennials have grown up with devices and apps, and they don't necessarily need to write code to make things happen in their world like maybe we did when we grew up in the 80s and so forth. So millennials don't want to be programmers. They don't want to learn a language. It should just work. And I think what we're doing as a manufacturer and other people are doing as manufacturers is giving them that opportunity with these easy configurable options. But you can't overlook the fact that no matter what library of stuff we put together, there's still going to need to be customization. I don't think it's as complicated as it's going to be in the past because I think we have the tools to make it simpler, but there's still going to be customization. So the person who's a Crestron or an AMX or an Extron programmer at a dealership, an integrator today, they're still going to be extremely important to the process. It might be a different kind of a day-to-day activity for them, but there's still going to be plenty of activity. And I think that the kinds of things that we're doing and that Sean said that his company is doing are actually going to open up the opportunity for enterprise level control in more spaces. So I think their work is going, the amount of work they're going to do is increase. It's just not going to be traditionally the same as it has been in the past.
Okay. Actually, Clint mentioned the fact that it has gotten simpler. I actually met a programmer probably about 6 months ago, still programming. He started programming audio video systems, control systems in the 80s with punch cards.
There you go.
I sat and talked, and I was just enamored with this gentleman and just his history of programming. I said, "You had to do what?" Yeah, the little cards. Yeah, so
that's the class I had when I went to college. Yeah, you got to go make punch cards,
and you had to stand in line and wait your turn to put them through the system. So yeah, Mr. McGinnis.
It was a college that was behind it.
All right, Mr. McGinnis, from an integrator standpoint, I mentioned the fact that integrators have spent quite a bit of time, quite a bit of money, sending programmers, their in-house folks, to classes, both from a travel standpoint, and sometimes you have to actually pay for the classes to the manufacturer. So where does this leave both the integrators and your folks that are in-house?
Our place in market, Tim, speaking for Westbury National, is doing larger, more complex kinds of systems. We do lots of simple rooms. We do lots of easy rooms, ones that can easily be configured, or have an online library that we can pick and choose from. But we don't think that we are at any risk of losing relevance by having a Crestron Gold Master and a number of AMX ACE programmers on our staff. I think we have 7 now, and we're looking for more.
Good night.
The configurable rooms, the simple rooms, those are expanding like rabbits. But the complicated rooms are becoming even more complicated. And the need for automation, because it's not, the trick is not control. I can pick up a universal remote and press a button and something will happen. That's control.
Yes.
Automation is when you press one button and 12 things happen to make it simple for a user and ensure that that user never has to learn the technology that is involved in delivering their message or communicating with their team. I think that Steve nailed it. He says, yes, there are going to be 2 worlds. We're all going to live in both of those worlds.
Right.
as for example AMX does now. With Rapid Project Maker, is that what it's still
Yes,
called?
you're
RPM.
correct.
Yeah.
RPM.
Is just it makes it fast and simple and inexpensive on one side, and on the other, guys are writing C++ level netlinks control code and having a great time doing it. So.
No, I really to clarify a couple of things. The ACE programmer is the AMX highest level, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, Sean. And gold level programmers is the Crestron version of that, and there's actually two more above. The highest right now is Diamond.
There's Platinum and Diamond.
There's Platinum and Diamond, and as soon as they run out of diamonds, they'll be triple diamond or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, those folks will be in wheelchairs because it takes a long time.
All right, Ms. Dawahi, from two different angles. The magazine you write for is geared more towards technology managers and IT managers.
Mm-hmm.
From those folks, and from that point of view, where's Brock and Sean and Clint have also already talked about the simple rooms and how the configurators make sense for that, but also the complicated rooms that aren't going anywhere. What do they want? Is it the unified interface? Is it the simple interface that goes throughout the entire system? Is that what they're looking for? Are they looking more for plug and play stuff?
Well, I think it's all of the above. And just to dovetail, I love what Brock was just saying, because it is an ecosystem that creates more opportunities, I think, for everybody. So looking at it not from a zero-sum game or one canceling out the other, I think for what my readers are wanting is what you're talking about is a standardized experience. So say you have a campus, you have 240 rooms. The more standard and intuitive, the better, so that you don't have to kind of give the itinerant professors or tenure professors or whoever's using that room more time to get up to speed on how to operate the projector, etc. So if you can build standardization into the process, obviously that has a relationship to the language, is somewhat reductionist, but we thinking about quote unquote antiquated custom code or programming free. I mean, I think they're a little misleading, but they are the terms that we're working with. So my readers are looking for data, they're looking for standardization, they're looking for metrics. What they also don't have a lot of are very large teams. So they might have a lean and mean, AV IT or Office of Instructional Tech, and I'm just focusing on the higher ed vertical as an example. But the more you can have access to, let's say, the smart metrics, something with either Crestron Fusion or the AMX RPM, I think the ROI is certainly more apparent. We just did a really fascinating study actually a couple of years ago with an AMX, it was an install at Southern Methodist University, and talking about the 20-minute programming. So thinking about, when you can look at a wizard style or just the drag and drop, but going through looking at what you need to bring on, make live or whatever. But with cloud access, if there's a new unit, it's automatically, updated. So, but that's just one element. So when you ask what are AV Tech's readers or community members asking for, that's one thing. Obviously the standardization, and they don't have a tremendous amount of in-house hours to spend. So a lot of I think the bigger, more complex installs are going to work with partners like Brock's integration firm, like AVI Systems. But more and more, we also, the last 3 cover stories that we've done, they've been in-house, or actually not the last 3, but the last 3 months, but within the last 5 months, they've been in-house installations that we've been focusing on. So higher ed institutions that are working on some smaller projects themselves and trying to leverage the expertise that they have and the partnerships that they have with the vendors that they have to make that capital expense go further. So I know I'm giving you a lot of information, but there's not a monolithic answer. They're all different. We have really diverse readers. So we have people that never do their own install at all. They do their own management. They do their own day-to-day, hour-to-hour management, and only partner with larger firms, larger integration firms. But then we also have, like the Oklahoma State University cover story that we did in February, March. They did an incredibly complex installation, networked AV. They used an Everett system, really a robust install. They did it all themselves, so their in-house team. So we really see a lot of different needs and a lot of different skill levels. Some have, ACE programmers, so they have Gold Crestron programmers on staff. So, you know what I mean? That's like that's people that are either maybe work.
No, here's the thing. You're preaching to the choir here, because that's actually how I learned programming, is because I worked for a small community college in Illinois. Illinois has a long history of having horrible budget problems, and we didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Right. So I learned programming out of necessity. Found out I loved it, and but yeah, we purchased our product through authorized dealers, but we primarily did all of our programming. So.
Yeah, and hey, Tim, let me add on to something that Brock brought up. Back in the day, back in the 90s, when Crestrons and AMXs were just getting going and stuff, and, AV control and boardroom control was something new, and there was a lot of customized programming because there wasn't really any standards back then, and plus IT wasn't as involved. Now that's switched, and so your traditional automation for boardrooms and conference rooms, there's a lot of consistency, and so you can standardize that, but where we see a lot of opportunities for the programming community is, when we're trying to deliver more immersive experiences. And just like Brock said, now that, there's all these huddle spaces going in with standard off-the-shelf plug-and-play type solutions, that's driving the boardrooms to do something extra special. And where we're seeing a lot of opportunities, we're doing a lot of stuff on voice. Those things are difficult to productize and standardize at this point because it's so new and people are wanting to do
Whoa, back up. You guys are doing a lot of work on voice.
With with IBM and with some other partners. Yeah.
Not available yet.
What's that?
Not available yet.
Not available yet.
Okay.
Actually, it's coming with, it's
at
coming,
least not in English.
Here's the thing. I thought he was dropping a major serious scoop on me, and I was just clarifying here.
We have some very large proof of concepts going that's already been put in place in healthcare. But these are great opportunities we see for the development community, because what we're going to be doing initially, at least in corporate, is delivering a platform so that integrators can start working with customers to create these really immersive, customized, bespoke solutions. We don't know what those standard solutions are going to be yet. And when we're on a cutting edge technology like that, that's excellent opportunity. We'll provide a platform for the integrator to be creative with an end user and start exploring and doing things. So, I think those will continue to happen for the integrators. There'll always be the need for customized bespoke solutions, and when they can engage in that and actually deliver that value over time as technologies change.
Real quick, Margo, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make another point that I think this just echoes the broader movement in programming and development in general. I mean, when you think about how websites were built in 2000 versus, the availability or the ubiquity of Squarespace, for example.
Excellent analogy.
Everybody has access to Squarespace. You hear it underwriting every NPR show, but their Drupal developers are in such hot demand right now. Custom CSS, Joomla, there's still Ruby on Rails. There's a tremendous opportunity to customize what we already have access to. So again, as my earlier point, I think it's just the opportunities are actually greater for everybody. I don't think one cancels out the other. So it's a little bit like what Sean's saying with the huddle.
It definitely, here's the thing, it definitely feels like, I agree with you, one does not cancel out the other, right? I agree with you. As we're moving towards that, though, it definitely feels that way. From the programming community, it definitely feels like, oh my gosh, they're going away. But I absolutely get your point. You're right. Squarespace and Wix and some of the other kind of drag and drop websites are there, but you can customize and you can get deeper. So, all right, let's move on to honestly our last story. It's going to be from my buddy Craig McCormick over at Commercial Integrator. He delves into the topic of attracting and retaining top talent. Craig writes, quote unquote, to attract top talent or keep it once you've got it Employers must make sure to ensure that they have intention behind their strategies, know their brands inside and out, and develop a talent marketing strategy. Mr. McInnes, we're going to start with you.
Oh, don't
because
do this to me.
Okay, I'll start with Margot then. Margot, this
Start
is
with the millennial.
Yeah, start with well, she's not a millennial. Yeah.
Although praise.
It's two questions.
Yes.
Number one is how do you retain the talent you got? Because here's the thing: from every business person I've ever met that's tried to help me and mentor me in my business, it costs a lot of money to lose somebody.
Yes,
right?
It does. And time.
So let's start with that. How do you retain the great folks that you've got?
I think you have to create an environment where they can see their values incorporated into the work that they're doing. So again, we have really diverse folks that we work with in terms of some get into, through New Bay Media, for example. And I also work in the higher ed sector as an advisor. So in that world, I see a lot of crossover too with what we're doing at New Bay. But if you can create an environment where someone gets to exercise and refine not only their skills, but really work to the inherent values that drive them, then I think that they're going to invest more, and there's going to be more of a trust built, and you can nurture that. So obviously, I believe in work. I started working when I was 12. You know what I mean? I was just having this conversation this morning with a coworker. We look to work for sometimes our voice, our value. It's how we define ourselves in America. The first question is like, hi, I'm Margot. Oh, what do you do? What do you do? Work has an incredible value, but if from the employer standpoint, if you can, really suss out, and I think this has to happen when you're hiring as well, you have to look for those soft skills. What do you want out of the position? Is it the right fit? So retaining the talent, of course, it has to start the way in the beginning when you're recruiting the talent, but trying to find the balance between the work that you need to get done, results-oriented. I know that industries such as the Gap and some other ones work with what they call ROW, results-oriented work environment. So it's about the results. So if you can work on the schedule that works for you as well as it works for the team, then why not? It's about working smarter, but also creating a dynamic environment where you can make sure your voice is heard, not in a subordinate way or anything like that, but just that there's an open exchange of information. And we've had a lot of incredible talent. New York's, we're New Bay is based in New York. We've had incredible people come through and then ultimately leave for bigger, better opportunities or whatever. And it hurts. It really does, because you see what they can bring, the voice that they can bring, and you want to keep that. And sometimes it comes down to money, but also where do you feel like you fit? What can you really contribute?
But here's the thing. I actually want to bring in both Sean and Clint on this, because one thing that New Bay does, I have some pretty good friends that work for New Bay that don't live in New York, right?
Yeah.
Margot's one of them.
I used to, but
you used to. My buddy Jeremy Glowacki, who is the editor of Residential Systems, doesn't live in New York, right? A number of folks do not live in the city proper, meaning they don't live and work and go to the corporate office. So, Mr. Robinson, how do you retain folks and in a grand corporate structure, right? Let's be clear here. Kramer's a giant corporation. Harman and Samsung are giant corporations. There's a story this week about IBM bringing all their remote folks back, or at least a lot of their remote folks back, right? Yeah. That whole wonderful cliche of work-life balance and making sure that people are happy. And yes, some of it's money, to Marco's point, but some of it is also being fulfilled in what you do and how you do it. So how do you retain the folks you've got?
Yeah, great question. So I've been managing, product management for AMX since 2008 and have a great team. And, one of the biggest things, I tell you, I didn't really have any mentors for managing. You just kind of get thrown in there and you start managing. It's nothing you learn in business school, right? So I'm not making a plug here, but there's a podcast that became my mentor many years ago called Manager Tools. and they're very practical tools. And this goes out to everybody who's out there in the AV community who's managing people, because again, there's not really any classes for that specifically. Manager Tools was an amazing podcast. Two guys have been doing it for about 10 years now, but I learned a tremendous amount of skills from them on how to effectively manage. One of the most important pieces of that is maintaining and deepening a relationship with the people that work for you. And that's all based on trust. And trust can only be developed by talking face to face. And so I have one-on-ones. This was a Manager Tools directive, but one-on-ones with your team members every week, dedicated, just one-on-one, at least 30 minutes, typically 30 minutes once a week. And it needs to be face-to-face. So even with my remote workers, I do that over Skype because I want to be able to see the face. I want to be able to, and you're dedicating your time to them. And then going through all the change that AMX has gone through with Harman and then in the Samsung, it's important to set a vision and make sure that you're communicating out to that employee, because a lot of employees leave because of several reasons that's mentioned in our article, but one is bad management, right? And which is a lack of communication and translation of the overall vision and making sure there's buy-in there. The millennials, like he points out in there, I've got a couple on my team, and they're different, right, than us Gen Xers, and they do want constant feedback. That when they say that, I know for a fact that's true. And my millennials challenge me too, and I learn a tremendous amount from them. So, but it all comes through communication. It can't be just like, oh, stop by my office anytime you want to talk. Dedicate time every week for communicating to your employees, and then that way you can make sure they're fully aware of what's going on, the change. They have time to ask questions. You know what they're working on, and you maintain and deepen that relationship, and that's absolutely key.
All right, Clint, same question to you. Not for nothing, but Kramer's headquarters is in Israel.
Yes,
Clint's
it is.
in New Jersey.
Yeah.
His CEO lives in my backyard in St. Louis. So same kind of question. How do you stay connected, like Sean was talking about?
Well, staying connected is really about the interaction between people, not the physical location. If Steve was in the office in New Jersey more often, I don't necessarily think that's going to have like this amazing impact on morale. Morale comes from other places. It comes from other actions throughout the course of time. I was fortunate enough to have a mentor. I worked for the same guy for 25 years over two different companies, Dave Bright, and I learned everything I know from him. And that is, you treat people the way you want to be treated, even if you're in a manager and a subordinate kind of relationship. And he created this kind of family atmosphere, and then that motivates everybody to want to continue to be a part of that and to do as well as they possibly can. And interestingly, Craig also read another article this week about Spinatar. And the whole focus of that article is the fact that they feel that they're growing their business because back when we had the 2009, 2010 financial crisis, they focused on their employees and created both a family atmosphere and a managed team approach. So they created teams instead of having it just be product over here and sales over here. They would get a product person and a salesperson and an engineering person, put them together and say you're a team. And that created a greater atmosphere of self-worth that like Margot was referring to. But there's one other thing too so that's what you do when you got them in, when you have the people already and how you work that. There's also a very important part that Margot touched on, and that's when you're doing the hiring. I recently had the opportunity to see one of the two brothers that founded the Life is Good t-shirt company. Yeah, down at the AVAC. And one of the points he made resonated with me so much. He said, somebody asked him, it wasn't part of his presentation, somebody asked him, what's one of the biggest lessons you and your brother have learned in business? And he said, one of the things is that company culture is paramount. And when you think you need something in your company at a particular time and you find a resume that has that on there, no matter how much you want that and how much you are desiring to have that, if that person's not a cultural fit, don't make that hire. So there's an important part that goes along with that too, because otherwise you start bringing in people that don't fit your culture, and then your culture doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, then it has a tendency to kind of poison the well.
Correct.
Then on your culture. All right, Mr. McInnes, you will have the last word on this. Take your choice. How do you get them, or how do you keep them?
I was reluctant to start, Tim, because this is an area of business I'm really quite insecure about.
Okay.
In terms of retaining employees, we've had a lot of success here at Westbury. We have a lot of long long-term employees. And typically, if anybody quits, it's their wives that quit. I'm sorry if that sounded sexist, because it's their spouses that quit. But we work hard here, and people are really engaged in making customers happy. And sometimes that means missing baseball and a birthday and being late for dinner or being late for breakfast. We have a work-based culture, and Margot, what Margot said really resonates with me, because I too, I was raised to work, and I live to work, and a huge part of my identity is what I do. So when somebody joins us, it's a bit like joining a club or joining a religion, and they do have to want to be here for the same reasons that we're here. If people come to Westbury and don't by nature want to please the customer, like if they reluctantly make a customer happy, but that's not their nature, they don't last very long here.
Yeah,
we are customer pleasers, and at the expense sometimes of our own schedules and our own families and our own work lives.
Yeah.
Work-life balance,
yeah.
Which is, in terms of attracting people, well, we have to attract people who are like us, and less and less people these days are like us. And I certainly won't cast any aspersions on millennials, because I think they're a wonderful generation, and they're a heck of a lot smarter, and know a lot more about a lot of things than the generation that I grew up in. But it is a real challenge, and we're working through. Do you make a fancy workplace? Which was one of the articles, the point of one of the articles. Do you give them a whole bunch of technology? Do you give them an alphabet like work environment where they get to choose their hours and choose their productivity and go on a lot of vacations, or do you circle back to, where do I find people who are like us? Where do I find customers who fit our model? And where do I find people who will work with us to keep our customers happy, who already fit our model? And are strong technically first, and are honest first, and trustworthy first, and passionate first, and all of those kind of characteristics that we ascribe to ourselves. But I'd never say any of this publicly, because I'm really insecure about it.
You know I'm recording this, right?
Oh,
dang! All right, that's a wonderful last word. The religion of Westbury National. Yeah, that's going to hit it for us, sir. Guys, thank you so much. Margot, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really fun, and I already look forward to the next one.
Well, we'll get you on. How do people find you online, as well as at the Infocom show in a couple weeks?
Just close your eyes and I am on Twitter at AV Technology Mag. At Infocom, just look for the blur that's running across the show floor.
Well, and you guys have a booth, though. You have a booth right outside the main doors there.
We do, and hopefully, I actually do not know exactly what to tell you, but just look for Nube signs. Look for. I think we're actually going to be maybe right outside of the main door.
Yeah, you're like in the lobby there, right outside the main entranceway. So
that's great.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Hoffman, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I would like to tell you that if anybody would like to find me, they can come to booth 2930 at Infocom. I'll pretty much be rooted there the entire time. Kramer Electronics is at www.kramerav.com. And if anybody wants to talk to me, I'm at choffman@kramerus.com.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Robinson, thank you, sir.
It's been a pleasure.
And how do people find you and or all of the companies you work for?
Sure, yeah, pro.harman.com on the web, and in wonderful Orlando, booth 3201, and also the audio listing room, W222A, and the Samsung booth. So I'll probably be rooted in the Harman booth, 3201. I'll be in the Samsung booth a little bit, but looking forward to seeing everybody.
Very good. Last but not least, Mr. McInnes. Thank you, sir, as always.
My pleasure. I'm Brock at Brock.m, I guess these days, at Westbury.com, and out there a bit on Twitter. I don't have a booth at Infocom this year.
You shouldn't.
But you can find me in a lot of other people's booths, including Clinton Sean's. I probably won't hang out at Margot's booth because nobody from New Bay will be at that booth. It will be intern of the week, and the rest of you will be scurrying across the floor.
Yes.
Trying to keep up with all the product launches.
Unless we will be having chargers, so when our phones run out of power.
Infocom is going to be really exciting this year. Clint, have you signed up for the Tides conference?
I haven't signed up for that. We have a presentation on the main event station center. They have like a new
center stage. Yep.
Center stage. Thank you, Tim. Yep. Thank you. But not Tides yet. No, I'm going to check that out.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for Tides. I've just confirmed I'm going to go a little early. It sounds so fantastic. I got a great opportunity to talk to Rachel Bradshaw. It sounds wonderful, and I think if you can, possibly everybody should definitely check it out.
They're working hard to encourage us to attend. This is a completely unique event for the audiovisual industry,
yes.
and I think that it's worth taking to risking a day. And $795. Probably Margot probably paid less.
About $10. I got a $10.
You got $10 off. Okay.
So $10 coupon.
I'll go for that. I think it's going to be amazing. It could change the way that we think about AV.
Well, I think that in conjunction with the center stage, we talked with Kirsten Nelson was on the show last week and talked with her. Those two events, because center stage is going to be a combination of a little bit of Tide, meaning there's non-traditional AV folks in addition to audio video folks at the center stage. That's the one that's in the middle. Literally, it's the center of the show. They have different TED-like presentations all throughout the week. So it'll be very interesting, kind of how we come away from this show looking at the industry and how they're giving us new information from, again, people who are not traditionally audio video folks. So
well, this is our industry's annual pilgrimage, and if we do the same thing over and over and over again, we cannot expect things to be better or different than they were last year or the year before. And I really applaud the folks at Infocom on the association on taking the risk of doing some things differently. There's no keynote this year, if you haven't noticed, which, after turkey sex last year, I'm not entirely sure what it was they could do that would be better, but they are trying to change our experience and make it more exceptional. And I really think the folks at Infocom are doing a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I didn't mention this at the beginning, but thank you, all four of you, and those of you who continue to listen to me on a weekly basis. This was episode 300. And it feels weird. And a little bit humbling, the fact that we've been doing this for 300 episodes. So thank you all for joining us and coming along with it. Not that I'm done, because next week I'm already starting working on 301. But I'm writing a blog post about this and my deeper thoughts on what the heck 300 means. For the listeners and for the folks who watch us on a weekly basis, it means nothing. It means that it's 300 and next week's 301. But for me and for everybody here at AVNation, I wanted to say thank you very much for coming along for this ride. You can find us at avnation.tv. All of this stuff. We're doing some stuff at Infocom. We are not having a booth. It actually comes down to what our product is, and our product is audio and video productions, bringing you podcasts and commentary and insight on what all these topics and everything mean on a weekly basis and a monthly basis. So we have a production room. That's where we're going to be doing all of our stuff. We're still going to be on the show floor, just like Margot is, running around crazy, bringing you the latest, greatest information.
If anybody does, see me on the show floor, just bring me a coffee and I will accept
and water, both coffee and water. So, But yeah, so you'll find us going around that. But if you go to the website, we already have an infocom station section, just like SCN does. You'll find all the stuff that we're doing. I want to mention a couple of things. One is the AVNation AV Tweeps tweet up. Basically, it's free food and drink for about 2 hours, 4 to 6 on Wednesday, but you can register for it at the website. Also, it's a little scavenger hunt thing that we do to help our underwriters out and help the folks going to the show. It's called Find AVNation. That's there as well. Also want to mention that our fine underwriters, these are the folks that help us do what we do. These are the folks that help us out financially. Harmon is one, as well as so is Kramer, so thank you both. But if you go by the website, you can find out who those folks are, and you can tell them thank you from the listeners. So it helps us do what we do. So also have a couple of new programs coming out, hopefully by the beginning of the month, but if not by the beginning of June, by the beginning of July, we're going to start doing a couple of daily shows. So you'll see those as well. All of that and more, all at the website, AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been AV Week.